Hello, welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl as we're in our midst of our High Elf Realms faction focus in Warhammer the Old World. We're now looking at the core category, so let's see what the basic units of the High Elves can do on the tabletop. First up, the Elven Spearmen. Now they've got good movement, as most elves have, good weapon skill, pretty good ballistic skill, initiative and leadership, and this is, when you compare it against other core infantry. They are regular infantry, and they got 25 by 25 mil base, and the unit size is 5+. So they come with hand weapons, thrusting spears, light armor, and shields. So they do have an armor save of 5+. They can take a full command group. They can take shield wall. So once per game during a turn in which it was charged, a unit with this special rule that was in close formation and using shields can choose to give ground instead of fall back in good order. I like Shield Wall. I think it's a great value ability. 0-1 unit may replace Valor of Ages with Veteran. I think that's of limited value. And they can take a magic standard up to 50 points. They come with close order. They've got the Elven Reflexes, so +1 initiative in the first round of combat. Nice. Martial Prowess. They're a regimental unit, so they can take a detachment. And they do have the Valor of Ages. Like Elven Spearmen, they're a solid infantry core choice. They're not the cheapest core infantry in the game, far from it, but they are the cheapest unit in the High Elf roster, and they've got decent weapon skill and leadership, combined with that initiative 5 on the first round of combat. Movement of 5 also makes them faster than most infantry in the game, and Shield Wall can give them some staying power despite their light armour. For 3 points per model more, you could take Lothern Sea Guards with shields, which are spearmen with basically war bows. However, they do lose the option to take shield wall. So I think Elven Spearmen do retain a specific role in the army, being a little bit more durable than those Lothern Sea Guard and cheap to boot. So they do maintain a role even with the Lothern Sea Guard in there. And they do it cheaper than any other unit as well. I would always opt to take Shield Wall if you can spend the points on the unit. But outside of that, I would keep the unit as cheap as possible. I wouldn't give them a magic standard, and I wouldn't give them the veteran special rule either. Next up is we're looking at the Elven Archers. They've got good movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and leadership. They are regular infantry, and they do come with 25 by 25 mil bases, unit size 5+. Equipment-wise, they've got a hand weapon and longbows, but they do have the option to take a light armor. They can take a full command group, and they can replace Valor of Ages with Veteran, and they can take a magic standard up to 25 points. So they've got their Elven Reflexes, Valor of Ages, but they are detachment. So you could have Elven Archers as a detachment for your Elven Spearmen. I can't really think of many occasions when you'd actually want to do this. Maybe if the Elven Spearmen get charged, that your Archers can now shoot as though they're being charged. So there are some specific occasions where you might gain value from it, but in most cases you probably don't want the limitations that also come with it. They're 1 point per model more than Spearmen, but they are ballistic skill 4 with longbows and arrows of Isha, which means they're ballistic skill 4. The strength is as the user, but they are going to be AP -1, and they're going to gain that extra armor bane as well. Make this one of the best core missile units in the game, and likely to be included in most of my army lists. I'm going to have at least 1, if not 2 units. Keeping the unit cheap, though, opting for more bodies means forgoing light armor, veteran, and magic standard. So in most cases, do I really want to pay the points to gain a 6+ armor save? And most of the time I'm going to forego that, and I'm going to, for every so many archers without light armor and not paying for it, essentially you kind of get one free as if you were taking the armor. By skipping the light armor, there you go, every 10 archers you gain another one essentially for free, because that's how much the armor would cost versus the point per model. Okay, Lothern Sea Guard then. So they're pretty much the same as your Elven Spearmen. Everything else is the same, regular infantry, base size, unit size. Come with hand weapons, they get thrusting spears, and they get their war bows and light armor, but they don't get shields as standard. They do have the option to take shield, but you're going to have to pay for it. They can have a full command group. The Sea Master can take 25 points of magic items. They can take a magic standard. And they can replace Valor of Ages with Veteran. So they get their Elven Reflexes. They get Martial Prowess, which is nice because that's the supporting attacks to flank and rear. Though, limited in that most of the time you'll be trying to avoid that. So, how often you'll get to use Martial Prowess is debatable. Naval Discipline is interesting. May stand and shoot regardless of range of charging unit, and make a free redress the ranks before the charging units moves into base contact. So Naval Discipline, again, as I said, there's definitely a difference between your Spearman and your Sea Guard there, and I think that's quite interesting. Despite relatively high points per model cost for a core infantry unit across the board, I like Lothern Sea Guard. Not just because I've got plenty of them, and they look nice. They come from the Island of Blood set as well, so there's should be plenty of them out there. But unusually for a hybrid unit with the ability to shoot and have spears and shields, make them a very usable unit. They've got the good weapon skill, they've got the good ballistic skill, and with that you've got the naval discipline, that ability to stand and shoot, the free redress the ranks. And the fact that you're going to be trying to close with the enemy because of your spears and your melee ability means that if someone does charge you from close range, you're still going to get your stand and shoot. So I think they're a good unit, absolutely. I think the main weakness is the 5+ armor save, but that's no different to the Spearman. But so you're going to need plenty of bodies to make this work, though. And a 20-man unit with a full command group is 257 points. Which means I would not normally take more than one unit unless you're going for a narrative Lothern-based army list. And again, I would avoid spending any additional points on veteran, magic items, or a magic standard. Illyrian Reavers, right, okay, so yeah, they've got the movement, the weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and leadership, pretty standard for a lot of Elven units. They have the troop type of light cavalry, and their base is 30 by 60. They come with hand weapon, cavalry spears, light armor, and their hooves count as hand weapons, and they can take short bows as an optional extra. They may take a full command group, and the Harbinger can take 25 points of magic items. 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points may take scouts and or skirmishers, and they may take a magic standard. Okay. So they get Swift Stride, they get their Elven Reflexes, Valor of Ages, and Fast Cavalry, which makes them very mobile on the battlefield. I'm not the biggest fan of Missile Cavalry, which is if you take the war bows, because the points cost generally means you've got a low model count. How many of these you're actually taking? 5? 10? And if you're taking 10, that's a reasonable points cost. And you're still only getting 10 missile shots. It's of limited value. Cheap fast cavalry, however, can be useful for harassing, right? Movement disruption of the enemy army, as well as threatening weak missile units and war machines. This presents a dilemma for the Illyrian Reavers as fast cavalry, because in this role, they need to be as cheap as possible. Skirmishers and scouts are going to have a huge impact on making them better at that role, but you'll increase the cost by 3 points per model by doing so. So I'd almost consider not taking the warbows, but in reality, I rarely take this unit in an army list. It's an Island of Blood unit. Again, it was in an Island of Blood box. There's plenty of miniatures around. They look really nice. So they're quite available on the second-hand market. But overall, they're not my favourite choice in the core category, I have to say. Right, Silver Helms. So heavy cavalry in core, 30 by 60. And they come with hand weapons, heavy armour, lances, they get their hooves, and they get barding, and they can take shields. So heavy armour, shields, 4+, with the barding. This can be a 3+ heavy cavalry unit. They've got the full command, and the high helm can take 25 points of magic items. Special rules, as you'd expect, they get the first charge, they get Swift Stride, Close Order, Elven Reflexes, Valor of Ages, and Ithilmar Barding. But there's one key rule that's missing from here, and especially given that a standard barded Elven steed gives you countercharge, but the Silverhelm unit doesn't get it, and that's a problem. So they're a pricey core unit. Heavy Cavalry are in a good place in the game right now. There's no doubt about that. Heavy Cavalry are in a nice place. But they've got, for some mysterious reason, a lack of countercharge. Therefore, you've got to be much more careful with your movement because you must charge, right? Because if you get charged, you're not going to get use of your plus strength on your lances because you're not countercharging. The main upsides is you get the heavy armor, shield, and barding, so you get good durability. They've got the good initiative, so if they do get through to the second round of combat, most of the time they're going to be striking first. And then with all cavalry units, they've got low model counts on 1 wound models, which means that anything that can reduce the attacks back is absolutely key. Overall, I don't often take Silverhelms. If I want a heavy cavalry unit, I'll choose Dragon Princes. And despite the increased points cost, I would prefer those. And to be honest, most of the time I'm taking the minimum core requirement with the infantry and the archers. And there you go. That brings me to the end of the core category for the High Elves. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. But let me know why you didn't like it in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. And it means a lot to me, so thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Owl. Tune back in as we take a look at the special category of units.